Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, and welcome to Enter 4.0 training. We are so sorry for running late. So just a brief recap of what was introduced yesterday. So we spoke about how NTEEP is a supportive program that was launched in 2020, focused on equipping entrepreneurs with the right skills and plugging them into the right community. So yesterday's session with Mr. Mufasa was on business ideas and opportunity identification. Today we focus on customer validation and market research. And our guest for today is Marg Asula. So welcome Marg Asula and welcome everyone. So before um, I give her the floor, I will just give a brief background and biography of who she is. So, Marg Asula has been in the IT industry since 1987 and has worked for companies such as NCR, Softlab, and Oracle. She studied management and entrepreneurship in Vienna, Austria, Europe, where she also lives. So she has been self-employed for almost 20 years and founded Ubuntu Soft in 2013 with a focus on digital marketing with websites as her main focus. She is a certified insurance agent and financial advisor and co-founder of African Business, an association to support African founders. She teaches unemployed people in Vienna skills such as data organization and web design or development so that they can too find a job in the IT industry. Since 2022, she has been a speaker at NTEEP. So welcome, Miss Marg Asula. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me. Good morning to everyone. Sorry. Our topic for today will be customer validation and marketing research, as you just heard. So after maybe now having heard about how to find business opportunities, now it's time to find out whether your idea, whether your business opportunity is already what the market, what your potential customers will actually be needing and wanting and be willing to pay for. So I'd like to start with an example. I'm not sure whether you all know about a Segway, personal transporter. So Segway was some time ago. We can see it was introduced 2001. It is an electric self-balancing two-wheeled vehicle. And it was meant as the new way to be used for short distances. So we can see there were definitely some devices that have been sold. We can see tourists here using the Segway, which was a nice idea. And it was even before all of these kinds of e-scooters were now actually coming to the market. But yeah, this company was having assumptions and they were not really checking whether their assumptions about the market, about the needs and the wants of their customers were real, were definitely what they were thinking. So it started with them not doing their due diligence, their market research. They actually were not considering that people already had ways to use for short distances, like walking, biking, public transportation. And that was already an effective way to do that. And they were actually not really eager to probably exchange their current means of transport with something that was actually very expensive, as we can see in a second. So although the company was thinking that customers would just love this innovation, and that would be their kind of main reason to even buy a Segway, that was definitely not the case. And in addition to that, the cost was actually very high. So one Segway was like $5,000, which was unaffordable for most of the consumers that would have been interested maybe. So a typical potential customer was not willing to pay that kind of money. And then in addition to that, it was not only a very expensive way of transport, it was also something where the company was not really thinking of all the aspects, like how would someone store this kind of bulky device? How would they be able to transport it in a car, for instance? And not to think and not to even talk about the legal restrictions. Where would they even be allowed to drive with these kind of devices? So we can see, although they had their marketing message, they tried to talk to their potential customers, but their messaging failed completely. They thought they would sell so many more devices, and actually it flopped. So what can we learn from this example? And it's a real world example. It's not something we had to come up with. It's a company more or less known here in Europe. They are quite known for their Segways. The mistake they made, sorry, was that first of all, they did not do any kind of customer validation. And then secondly, also not any kind of market research. So let's start with the customer validation. Customer validation, as we see, can be a way to, at an early stage of your product or service development, is equally valid for both products and services, whether this is even really something that your customer actually wants. And even if they want the product in general, is it exactly that kind of product that they want? So the best way that you can actually find out is by having direct feedback from your potential customers. So we see that could have reduced the risk of just spending a lot of money hoping for big sales, and that was not what was finally coming to reality. So they could have avoided these costly mistakes by doing customer validation. They could have ensured that the product was really market fit. So if they would have talked to potential customers, those customers might have said, so, but how would I now put it into my car? I only have a small car, a tiny car. How would I do that? And then the company would have had to rethink, reconsider, and maybe also just inform product development that they would have to change things. Yeah. Would they have done it in an early stage of the product development? The costs would probably not have been too high. They would have maybe come out with a version that would have been smaller or somehow more flexible for all the feedback that they would have gotten from their customers. So to even have this kind of feedback, to even get this kind of feedback from potential customers, you first of course have to identify your customers. Who is your target group that your product or services is meant for? This includes thinking about, is it a product for men or for women, or maybe for both? Is it a product for a specific age group? So a group of people, like maybe you have a product for teenagers, maybe you have a product for moms. Could it be a lifestyle? Could it be a demographic attribute? What exactly describes your potential customer? We are talking here about a buyer persona that describes maybe one very specific customer with all kinds of details that you could come up. We also talk about an avatar. Maybe you have heard about that. So why is this important? You might say, well, my products, they are for everyone. Everyone can use my products. My services are also serving everyone. Although this might be true, the truth also is that at least when it comes to your marketing strategies and to your marketing messages, your message cannot target all people the same way. Imagine, as we said, you would have a product that you actually want to sell to young people, maybe even teenagers, and you know that your product could also be used by an elderly person. Imagine how you would talk to them. You cannot talk in the same way in your marketing message to a teenager like you would to an elderly person, to make them be interested and to make them consider a purchase. So you see, this will even be interesting for your marketing later, but let's go back to the product development. So this is the kind of stage where you already should have some assumptions, of course. You would come up with ideas about what kind of product, what kind of services is it that your customer wants and needs, what kind of problems do they have that your product or your service is actually solving for them. We see here as an example that might be now in the IT industry, customers are frustrated with the complexity of an existing project management tool. And then you might have exactly the kind of software that would solve that problem. Yeah, this is just one example. We will see many examples down the road. So one way to get feedback from your customers is to have interviews. Another way is to have surveys. So interviews is of course somehow the best way, because that means you're really talking to real potential customers. You are talking to people that are part of your target group. And when you're talking to them, you definitely don't want to ask them questions like, do you like my product? Would you buy my product? So this kind of closed questions that would probably only get a yes or no answer from your customer. This is not what the interview is about. The interview is about you asking really interesting questions and open questions. Interesting questions about what exactly is the customer, what exactly is the pain, what kind of pain points does the customer really have, what would really help him or her to solve these kind of problems. So you actually try to make your potential customer to open up and to really let you know what they would need. Or I should actually say what they would want. We sometimes see that a potential customer might say they want this or that, and you might know that they actually would need something slightly different. Nevertheless, let them tell you what they want, because they might not purchase something that they need. They want to purchase something that they want. So we have to keep that in our mind. So offer them something that they want, to then, in the longer run, during your relationship with this customer, you might also be able to offer and give them what you see that they might probably really need. So that's also something to consider. Surveys, on the other hand, they are more like meant for those yes/no answers. So they can be done online. You can collect the data very easily compared to the interviews. The interviews, you might, if you are allowed to, you might even record the interview to then later be able to create a transcript of it and see what the customer was saying. And the surveys, on the other side, they can be like done by some tools. We will see some names of tools that you can use for that, and they will give you the answers in a very structured way already. So it is definitely easier to collect data via surveys. But the real golden nuggets of what the customer is willing to pay for is actually in the interviews. And why would you want to record those interviews if you're allowed to? You would also already consider using the customer's wording in your marketing messages, because then, and we will hear in the NTEEP trainings a lot of digital marketing and strategies and everything later on, but you already know with your marketing, you actually want a potential customer read your marketing message and they should be like, wow, this company, they know me so well. They know exactly where my pain points are. They know exactly what I would need, because for them it's always they would need it. And then they can relate with you, with your product, with your service. So very, very important. Yeah. If you use your own words, or you use the words of your competitors, because that's how marketing messages for a specific product look like in the industry, then your customer might not really react and correspond to that so well. So, and whether interviews or surveys, after you collected your data, of course, it's about analyzing the feedback and maybe changing something in the product development, changing some of your services accordingly, and also to consider that this is not something that you only do once for a product or a service, or just when you start out with it, with offering it, but that should actually also be something that you are going to do again and again, because as we know, markets change, also the thinking and the wants and needs of your customers might change. So it's a good idea to redo it after a specific time. So we said, what are the techniques and methods? And we will also see some tools. Customer interviews, how would you do those? So if you know who your potential customer is, you would really be, I would say it would be the best if you could have one-to-one interviews where your customer is really opening up. If that is not possible, try to at least have like a group session where you are interviewing a group of people. That might also be interesting, because if one of the people in the group answer a question in a specific way, that might trigger someone else to add something, because they might suddenly think about what it would mean for them, and then they would actually do a little bit of brainstorming even. Then we have the surveys and questionnaires, as we said, more of a structured collecting of data. Then also, if you are already in the stage of having a product, maybe also service, but this is especially for products, interesting for products, see how the customer interacts with your prototypes that you do have. Yeah. If you're thinking back to the example of the Segway, if they would have had their prototype of the Segway, and then they would have given it to potential customers and would have let them use it, they would much earlier have found out what the customer maybe would have liked, and especially what would still have been useful to have or to think of. Another way to find out and also collect data of potential customers is to just have a landing page. A landing page is similar to a website, but it is not so much about who are we and how can you contact us and what kind of products and services do we have. It is actually a web page, we would say, and it might even be something completely separated from your website. That is a one page, very simple form that just tries to find out who might be interested. You might offer a little informational video maybe about a product, or you might offer, depending on what your products are, you might offer some samples that you would like to send them. Then you get the email address, and then you can collect email addresses and get in contact with your potential customers, which might also be very interesting, not only might, which is very interesting. When you are done with your investigations, you then already have a list of email addresses that you can inform about the product now being available, and that will even trigger faster and also more purchases when you are finally ready for it. The MVP, you might also already have heard about that. The minimum viable product. It's also especially used for software products and this kind of something that you would create for online use maybe. But definitely you can also try it with other products. What is it? It is actually a very basic version of your product, if that is possible, to just really have a feedback about your product already. So why did I say it's often used in the IT industry? Think about you created a course. You want to teach people something. You want to create a great course, longer course that explains everything in detail, but to have people test your course and the idea and the way you are creating your course, you might just take one chapter out of it, one lesson that you can definitely give your customer. It's not the complete product, it's not the whole course, it's just a part of it. You offer it to customers, and in exchange you get their feedbacks and maybe even reviews. If you are in a stage where you are nearly ready, maybe it's one of those last tests before you really launch your product, you might even already collect reviews, which also is very, very important to have customers really talk about the product in a good way, because that again helps other potential customers to have the trust in you as a merchant, have the trust in you and your product or service. Very important. And also we know this probably from, that probably from your marketing strategies, the A/B testing. So if you are not completely sure whether it should be the product in this version or the product in that version, what might that be? That might be two products with different colors, with a little bit of different features, with a little bit of different taste. So you would do an A/B test and just let the customer decide. So like last time, I'm not really going very often to McDonald's, but last time I made an appointment at a McDonald's because of the location there. And so we entered there, and then a lady came to us, and she was like, would you have time to taste two of our burgers that we plan to have as an offer? And then they had two burgers, and they were actually quite similar. There were little differences. One was a bit more crunchy than the other one, and the lady had a really long list of questions that she was asking before we were allowed to taste it. So it was about the look and the packaging and everything. And then we tasted it. So that is a kind of A/B testing. They want to find out which version of the very similar product was actually liked by more customers, and would they even be willing to buy it. They even talked about the price that they planned that the product would have, and asked whether we would think that this kind of price was okay, and whether we would buy this kind of product for that specific price. So that is customer validation at its best. Two examples, also still a bit more from the online IT and so on space, not completely. One is a Dropbox that you might even use for file sharing. They did not just create Dropbox and then offered it. You can see they created a simple explainer video and then sent that to people to see whether they would even be interested in something like that. That was before we had similar online file sharing opportunities like now this Dropbox. And so they weren't sure. They had just a simple explainer video, and the response was great. So they went ahead, and we know they are very successful. Another, also not a very unusual example, actually, is Zappos. Zappos was interested in selling shoes online. And we know, especially the women know that a very important part of buying shoes is, of course, testing the shoes, wearing the shoes, maybe finding out whether a size bigger would be better, a size smaller would be better, whatever. So people generally thought it would not work to sell shoes online because of all the factors that come with it. But Zappos was thinking, let's try. And they were not building something and then offering it, but they were setting up a website and listed available shoes from local stores. So they did not even have any kind of shoes yet. They were just offering it what was available anyway. And when customers placed an order, they then purchased those shoes and sent them to the customers. And they saw what was working. They improved their way of doing business online. And then they completely went online as they saw that people, also women, were actually willing to buy their shoes online. So that's about customer validation so far, but we will also see a bit later that they are very connected. You need both of them, customer validation and marketing research, to really find out what it's all about. Marketing research, so you're now gathering and analyzing and interpreting the information that you have, and you do not only consider single customers or just a target group. You now also consider what about the market in its completeness. So it's also meant for you to make decisions that are not just like decisions out of your heart or what you might assume, but definitely data-driven decisions, at identifying opportunities with various ways. We will see there are a few different ways how to do it. Of course, also understanding customers. There is also the connection to our customer validation, and then also always checking out what the competitors are doing and where you actually could stand out and where could you distinguish yourself very uniquely from your competitors. Because if you are just another shoe shop or you're just another hairdressers and there's nothing special about you, your products and services, you are just another whatever, then people will not really become fans of your products or services. So the ways, one is the ways to do that. One is the primary, so-called primary research. That is like collect data firsthand. So you are the one, as we were already saying, via surveys, interviews, focus groups, and so on, you collect the data yourself. Secondary research, you just use what's already in the market. Like internal resources, you might already have had some times ago some of these kind of collecting data means, or you also just use external sources. There are, most of the time you can find industry reports, maybe from your Chamber of Commerce if you have, or market studies and so on. But I will also tell you and then show you, and I see that I have to be a bit faster to even be able to show you what you can use nowadays as well. So let's do that quickly. Qualitative research, we are talking here about the interviews, kind of, which are a bit more difficult to interpret, and quantitative research, that are our surveys, which are very easy to collect and very easy to analyze. Then we actually have the real marketing research process. So first we define the problem. We exactly define what we want to do, what we want to achieve, what do we want to investigate. Then we come up with a research plan, identify what we want to do, and then we collect the data. And this is, as I said, not something that you do once, but you do that regularly. If you have collected, when you are done with collecting your data, you analyze your data, and that might bring you to back to the development department that might have to change some things and improve your product or service. Practical examples. We see that can be used for completely new product development and should be used for it. For market segmentation, if you are already thinking of specific parts of the market, your target market. Customer satisfaction, as I said, reviews, is something very, very valuable for a company, even more when you are also offering your products and services online. And then also, of course, competitive analysis. Always check on your competitors. What are they doing? Are they shifting somewhere? What are good things that they are doing? And also, how can you distinguish yourself from them? Then I gave you a list. You will, of course, get these presentation slides. Here you will find a list of tools that are available for the various points that we were just mentioning. I'm not going through this now. You can read those afterwards. We will just see that the customer validation and marketing research, of course, they both are necessary for any kind of foundation for better and data-driven decisions that you actually want to do. This is a way to really holistically understand your customers' needs. Real-world examples that you can also look up then afterwards. There is this one example of FBN, and I wanted to show you the examples, but I'm actually not going to do that now. You find the links to their websites here, and you can watch those afterwards. Maybe that's better. This is the Farmers Business Network, and we can see they actually had an idea of having a platform where the farmers could share data and insights about crop performance and farming practices. And so they conducted interviews as well as surveys with the farmers. They got valuable information, and then they saw that there was really a need and an interest for what they wanted to offer, and that led to the portal that they now have and is working very well. One example. A second example, John Deere. This is their website. You can see their link here. So they actually offer precision agriculture tools, including GPS-guided tractors and smart sensors, so more technical products that they wanted to offer. And they conducted trials with a group of farmers, also to get their feedback on usability, effectiveness, and value of the new technology. And also in this case, they then found out this was very much what the farmers were looking for. They adapted their products, and especially as they found out that to improve crop yields and reduce input costs was what the farmers were looking for. That made those farmers finally invest in those products when they were ready. This is another agricultural example, Syngenta. I guess that's the name, the Swiss company. Also the link here. They wanted to launch a new fungicide, and they wanted to understand the market and did their marketing research as well. They had a pilot program. So that's, you remember this MVP, minimum viable program, and did their surveys with the farmers to find out what they wanted. And after that, they actually went back to the laboratory. They adapted the product, and they are also very successful. Then also an agricultural banking product that we find here, and I leave it to you to also check out this example, and also the animal nutrition, very similar example. What I finally want to actually finish my presentation with is that we are now also having another helper, which is AI, and there are several tools like this one, which is called Idea Ape, where you can put in some data that you're looking for. So all the marketing research that you would have to look for, white papers, industry papers, and so on, and even some of the customer validation, you can use a tool like that. Check out their website. They would really, within a very short time, minutes we are talking about, would come up with several pain points, several wants and needs of customers, because this tool is researching all of the internet, all of the questions that people were asking somewhere. The example is about kind of a pot. I'll show you at the end. So they were coming up with what is the budget conscious shopper talking and thinking about, what would bread bakers think about this kind of product, what would novice Dutch oven, that's the name of the product, users think about, and what would they need. You can have a look at that, and they also have a video on their website about it. Quality focused shoppers, and so on. So you see a lot of information, a lot of material, and then you can use our good friend ChatGPT, our virtual assistant, and could say something like, the following are the marketing research results I got, and then you would just copy all of the result of this Idea Ape app, and then ChatGPT would use that and could also summarize and come up with a value proposition for your Dutch oven, and then that could be used by your company to probably show your product on platforms like Kickstarter. And you cannot read it very well. I'm telling you, the link is also here. Check it out. They used all of these points in their marketing message, and they were able to fund their product. This is the Miesen Dutch oven. They were able to fund their products with more than $4 million. People were paying for the product while it was still in development. Yeah, so far to the presentation. It was a bit fast at the end, so check out the presentation slides, if you will. And yeah, back to Ms. Nadia. And are there any questions?
Okay. Sorry. So it's now question and answer. So if you do have any questions, please do put them in the comment section below in the chat box. So as we're waiting for the questions, we would like to give a special thanks to our sponsors. And these are Nomfro Technologies, Africa's Business, Ubuntu Soft, and Spirit TV. Also, I would like to go through a few rules for the comment section. Please be respectful with your questions and your comments. Also, the attendance form will be available under the description box. So that is all. Okay, so Miss Ursula, we have our first question. So I would like to just read it for you. Wani Abu Talib says, what do you do, or how do you respond to a nagging customer who is never satisfied by the product or services?
Yeah, I know. I think we all have this kind of customers. But this, on one hand, it shows it might not be our perfect ideal customer on one hand. So we might have been able to avoid getting a customer like that. Nevertheless, we do have the customer, and then I think it's very important to see what exactly it is that the customer is complaining about. What I mean is, there might be a real feedback in the complaining. Not necessarily, but there might be a real a real feedback where we could really think about improving our product or services. And if it's not, yeah, the question is there a way to
like
just
deal
kind of
with
neglect the customer? Yeah, sorry.
Okay, so the question is saying, is there any way you can deal with someone who is never satisfied by the product, or you just let it be?
Yeah, just let it be. As I said, definitely try to find out whether they might have a point or two. And if not, yeah, try to find other customers that might make it more interesting for you, and you might not have to deal with this customer that much. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the next one is, how can I overcome the challenge of lack of literacy in customer validation? I'm not sure if it's with literacy with the one who's with the business or the people in the community. Maybe clarification.
Yeah, let's assume the community is meant, people in the community. Let's assume that.
Mhm.
Honestly, I would just offer something that helps to understand things. Yeah, as a company with the product or a service, no one prevents you from also offering something that helps people to understand technology, to understand the services better. So really try to make very simple, maybe like cartoonish videos that could help, offer some kind of workshops, something where you actually stand out as the one that is not kind of complaining about the illiteracy available, or yeah, but actually is helping to fight against it. We can see that very often, especially in more rural areas. That's where it might happen more than in urban areas. Just be the one offering. Maybe they have like a community center. Just offer some workshops, or maybe online, depending on what is possible. So be the one who fights against this illiteracy.
Okay, so another question says, do I have to register my MPV with food agency before sampling with the potential customers?
That is a very good question, and I cannot answer you this question because I'm not a lawyer. That will definitely depend on the country that you're in and the specific laws that are in place in that country. So I would really ask you to either contact your Chamber of Commerce if you have, or a lawyer that might find out what would be the correct way.
Okay, so I think our last question for the day would be, which would you advise to be more beneficiary to startup between traditional and digital marketing sensitization?
I would assume it also depends on the country, or not only the country, but also the area that you are working in, that you chose as your target market. So there might be areas where digital marketing is not yet fully accepted, for instance. There might be a lack of trust online still, which would not mean forget about digital marketing, only use traditional. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is have a combination, use what is currently working and still working, but also introduce digital marketing because that's the way it's going anyway. And people are using their mobile phones for a lot of things nowadays, and they will adapt. And also, I would focus on digital marketing even more, the more your target market might be a bit more international. So out of your community area, out of your country, maybe even to Europe, the States, or wherever. So definitely both, with a shift to digital marketing.
Okay, so we do actually have more questions. So the next one from Seth would be, is there any way you can just use direct or general observations and make analysis that informs your course of action if you don't have enough money and resources to conduct elaborate research?
Sure, definitely, because if you know who your potential target group is, then you yourself can go for interviews. You yourself can also have just a piece of paper with questions of your survey, and you can just have go to marketplaces, go where people are that might be your potential customers, and just do the things yourself, and maybe not only online and so on. And it's I
Okay.
don't think that this will cost very much money. If you are talking about not having enough money for a minimum viable product, okay, that's another thing. But still, I would definitely go for the questions, for the feedback, and maybe consider platforms like Kickstarter, depending on your product. But for having a Kickstarter campaign, you would not really pay a lot. So just check out the Kickstarter and similar platforms, where you can also use then for actually collecting money. But for that, you definitely already have to know what your marketing message should be. So before that, do manually interviews, manually surveys, and then when you know what to say, use ChatGPT. The 4.0 is now free for everyone. And let ChatGPT help you with marketing messages. Then go and try to get some funding.
Okay. Another question says, can one have comparison of products for more than two or similar products?
You are talking now about similar
Um,
products, but not like two versions of this one product. I mean, it might be the same. Yeah, if you say similar products, then you could do something like an A/B testing, see which of the two versions are actually more interesting for your customer. If
okay.
there are if there are too many differences, I would actually do two completely separate researches and customer validations.
Okay, so that was our last question. Thank you, Mark Ursula, for being with us today, and we hope to see you soon again.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me, and I wish you all a great day.
Thank you. So, to everyone else, please do remember that ENTEP has social media handles. Please do connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. We are all, our page is at NTEP Connect. Then our website is www.ntep.org. Then, if you want to be a part of the NTEP community, then you please connect with us at connect.intep.org. We would like to thank our sponsors once again, Nonfro Technologies, Africa's Business, Ubuntu Soft, and Spirit TV. So do remember that the attendance form will be available under the description box, and please do mark your attendance if you are available. My name is Nadia Sadiki, and I was your moderator today. We meet again tomorrow, same time, as we discuss business formation with Marg Ursula Prinzinger. Please do have yourselves a good day.